tinfoil hat.
Oh, what the f*** you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Revolution will be podcasted.
All right, welcome to Tinfoil Hat, live from the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver Studios. Just go to samtripoli.gold, use the promo code TINFOIL, and you too can get in on the Precious Metals game for as little as $50 a month. Precious Metals sent right to your house. Very excited to have this guy on. He's a jack of all trades. He's a researcher. He's a broadcaster. He's an author. He's a rock star in a rock show that we're excited to hear about. Please welcome the one and only Mark Windows. How are you, sir?
Thanks, I'm fine. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a jack of all trades. I focus generally on geopolitical research, but I have a background in entertainment, which kind of runs along quite nicely with it all, because you need a bit of light relief now and again.
Yeah, we were just talking about that, about like just the landscape of, content creating and why some people might have a good show, but not getting the reach that they want. And you gotta kind of have a spoonful of sugar while you talk about this stuff, because it could get pretty heavy at some point. Mark, for those who may not be familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
WindowsOnTheWorld.net is the website, and the background to what I do was really in looking at systems of governance, and specifically I got into it through looking at the way local governance had changed and what was going on within the court system in the UK. And it changed around 2010 into a communitarian system, same as in the US when Obama announced the Obama Army, and basically that citizens were going to be taking over the narrative, but those citizens are not the community. And that's called communitarianism. So I got into that. I have a great interest in history. I've been researching for a very long time. I don't actually agree that you need a spoonful of sugar with anything, because I don't take sugar. And also, the information that I put out is pure, it's reliable, and any speculation I put out is generally just put out there. And I say, well, what do you think about this? Therefore, you don't have a big reach, because I don't put out clickbait. But I do have a very loyal audience who are pretty intelligent, because they interact with me through the shows and through the website. And to me, that's the most important thing. And also the amount of change that can be affected by what you put out. So I'm not the sort of podcaster who wants a big audience, and I was denied a big audience. I used to work at a TV station called the People's Voice TV, which was started by David Icke.
Yes.
And that was around 2014. I had a daily show, and I was putting out information which was very powerful with a group of people in the UK. And those people brought down several government agencies. Therefore, I was put on a list, I think, slightly targeted, and which meant the shows and the website was very marginalized for a long time. So it's kind of hidden in the algorithm. And that is, I think, a very important point, that if you want good information, you've got to go and find it and search a little.
I love everything you said. I mean, I've felt that as well. I watch on YouTube a bunch of new conspiracy content come on. It seems to thrive, and there's something about, if you're that old school, conspiratorial content, that they seem to still have something for you, and they don't want to let you kind of thrive. So I agree with you on that. I've lost YouTube channels. I had to pay back to get my Instagram. So I completely understand everything you're saying.
Yes.
You brought up something very interesting, and we'll get into your talking points, but we've said this on the show before that through the internet kind of took our eyes off of local and put our focus here in the States on Washington, D.C. and everything that was going on in Washington, D.C. And then they kind of made their move. I like to call them the Bolsheviks. You can call them whatever what I'd love to hear what you think they are.
We could call them the World Revolutionary Movement because it's all part of the same thing that you're talking about. Yeah.
I totally agree with that. And so they kind of like they kind of pulled our eyes to Washington, D.C., what was happening in Washington, D.C., why we didn't pay attention to our city councils, our board of educations, and all that stuff. And that's kind of where they went to work on it. And I'm glad you brought that up because I totally agree with you on that talking point. And it's just, I know the United States is going through a lot as well. We got a crazy election in.
Same template operates all around the world to a greater or lesser degree. And this is the thing that I think is probably the only frustrating point about it all is that people want clickbait, they want distraction. Therefore, especially after the COVID era, a lot of new podcasts were promoted, which are putting up this general conspiracy garbage, which leads you nowhere but keeps you up all night. And with a little bit of application, a lot can be done. And yes, everything that's happening globally happens in your town hall. So forget the people in Davos, forget all about what the conspiracy media are talking about. Concentrate on your town hall because everything global comes in locally. So everything that affects you is done through your local municipality, in Britain, your local council. And it's the same in America, exactly the same template. The communitarian template is the same in pretty much every country. It doesn't matter whether it's taking over a building. It doesn't matter whether it's taking somebody down. It doesn't matter whether it's clearing the way for new developments for land pirates and plunderers to come in. In fact, there's no difference in the template of the Gaza genocide and what's going on in your own doorstep. They're just different degrees of the same thing.
Well put. I totally agree with that. So let's get into this. You wanted to talk about the age of UN enlightenment?
Well, I think your producer looked at some of the shows that I'd put out and he thought that was quite interesting. Okay. I think that if people were familiar with my work, which many of them here won't be, then they would have a background. So I better give a little bit of a background to this because I've been talking about the UN global governance system for a very long time. And that system is through the Sustainable Development Goals known as Agenda 2030. And all of the principles of Agenda 2030 are kind of reversed in a way because there's the real and the stated goals. In other words, they give you this fluffy cover story, we're going to save the planet and you're going to pay for it. But really, the idea behind it all was that the bankers got together after the Rio conference in '92. There was an international criminal called Maurice Strong, who was the Under Secretary General of the United Nations, and he organized the UNEP program. He was also the head of the World Economic Forum around 1972. So this goes back quite a long way. And they decided that the new system of government would be through the environment. In other words, you pay benefits for breathing. So it's a new form of benefits called sustainable development, which means that in effect, the idea and the cover story of sustainable development is that you don't leave an impact which will impact on future generations' rights. I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but that's the cover story. The real story is that international financiers and bankers got together and decided that they would go for another system because a lot of people were calling this a capitalist system. So they went to another system and it came out of the City of London. And by 2008, N.M. Rothschild had put into place a paper called Carbon Trading Global Future Potential. And nobody talks about this. And indeed, that paper is actually available at windowsontheworld.net on the free books page. But it says at the beginning of that document that nobody is allowed to quote from it, which is crazy because obviously it's a public document, but it was only circulated to people within the industry. Now, of course, there's a lot more to it than this. We go back to the environmental movement, how it was hijacked, and people like Earth First, who was saying in the 70s, I think Dave Foreman said, the ideal world population would be under 100 million. And from that, they decided that depopulation was necessary on a Malthusian kind of concept, even though now world population is drastically reduced because of these implementations. So basically, what they set into place 30 years ago is falling apart because it's based on absolute lies. In other words, the sea levels are not rising.
Yep.
There isn't any climate catastrophe, and we're living in a very stable period. And I was involved with a lot of scientists who were challenging the global warming theory. And it's a theory with no foundation evidence. And therefore, what's happening now is it's falling apart. I actually proved that it's falling apart a very long time ago. And the people like Niels Axel Morner, the world's leading expert in sea levels, he actually resigned from the UN IPCC. And we were going to go to this small town in North Wales that was going to be decommissioned. In other words, land grabbed. So we found out that Lloyd's of London would still insure these properties, even though they were meant to be in managed retreat. And Lloyd's of London knew that the climate change thing was a scam. So they're trying to act accordingly and get around it. But what happened was that we did a talk down there to the locals, and the local Labour Party and the fake green Nazis, Nazis, it's too good a word for them. People get lazy with that word, but the fake green lobbyists actually denigrated me, said that I'd worked on a show on a station with David Icke and that who thought the Queen was a lizard, and that my conspiracy theories were about as credible as Elvis being on the dark side of the moon, which is one they threw out a few years ago. But what happened was recently, the reason I'm bringing this up is nearly 10 years later, the local papers are saying, yes, it is a scam. And that local paper, they put down, when I was going to do my talk, I spoke to them on the phone about all this. And instead of putting world leading sea level expert offers to support Fairbairn in court over decommissioning, they wrote protest planned for climate change deniers talk. So there was no protest plan, but they tried to incite a protest. Now, I think you were referring to this kind of ad hominem attack just before we went live. And then they do this, and a lot of the public will believe it. But I think that the environmental thing is the key to unlocking the new world order, as Mikhail Gorbachev himself said in 1996.
So you bring up some wonderful points, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, 100%. I wanted to know, what is your thoughts about Bill Gates coming out and basically saying that humanity is not going to be killed off by climate change? Is that a small victory for us, that he's basically said it's not going to be a thing? Because that was
well, I think more people have been killed by Bill Gates and his programs than the climate. So it's true. Yeah, he's not lying.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we get into this. Again, if we kind of look at what's going on in New York City, you just have a bunch of rich kids, and they don't even have to be kids. Yes. They could be 20 and 30-year-olds, but they're rich kids, and they can live in La La Land, and they can they can create these windmills into monsters and be Don Quixote and be fighting fake monsters because it gives them purpose. Because there is this kind of balance that when you do really well in life, will your children know struggle? Will they? Well,
it was aimed at the middle classes, actually, Johnny. That's a very good point, because sustainable development is not aimed at poor people. It's the middle classes are the target of sustainable development. Therefore, if you have 6 or 7 bins and you're recycling, then it makes you feel good. It's like going to church and doing your confession for the week. That's basically what it is. It's the new form of benefice. Of course, it goes all into the same hole, into landfill, or it's exported. But the point is that people need to feel good about their own micromanagement. So if you're going to micromanage the population, they have to feel as though they're doing something useful. And the middle classes are the biggest dupes for that. And I saw that in the borough that I lived in. And what they did, they brought in people who were going to recruit those people and who were going to take down the opposition with the sort of Saul Alinsky rules. And this happened in America too. Same template. It's a template that's very simple, but people don't want to know about. But it's the template which will empower you, and then you will be able to live your life accordingly and get onto much higher levels of thinking. And that was the idea behind it. So if you start to look at how you're governed, then you can move on to the next stage. But until you know how you're governed, there's no point moving on to that next stage.
And what I find interesting is how nobody ever wants to actually look at, hey, were we lied to? Like everything is, they're goldfish. The only thing that matters to them is what's in front of them. And it's like my girlfriend, who I love with all my heart, she still watches MSNBC over here, which is our super progressive stuff channel. And it doesn't matter that they lied about COVID. Doesn't matter if they lied about Russiagate. Doesn't matter if they lied about Obama. Doesn't matter if they lied about weapons of mass destruction. I mean, you know, we just had Megyn Kelly go off on Candace Owens, and she's like, I trust the FBI 100%. And I just want to go, okay, Megyn, what is the story or the case that the FBI was correct about? Yeah. Well, tell it. I'd love to hear about it, because I can come up with lists where they were completely fraudulent and lied about the entire thing. What is the case that you go, this is where they were right with us? And there is none. And
I think that this is how the media works. You buy into the two lies, left and right, Republican versus Democrat.
I agree.
Or, did the state do this, or was it done by terrorism? These are false arguments, because the actual theories behind governance go way beyond these talking points which people are given. So people get addicted to talking points. It's like a football match. So you want your side to win. So if you're indoctrinated, or you indoctrinate yourself into one side, then you want that side to win. So the argument actually doesn't become a proper debate. It just becomes two people shouting ad hominems or logical fallacies at each other. So that's not an argument. So this is a very important point about self-governance. Therefore, if you talk about the for and against of something, you're missing the point, because it's there. You've got the dialectic going on, which means that there's two lies. So in other words, if you want to keep people away from any kind of power, then you give them two lies to argue over. The theory of governance is that the two lies are there to stop people from actually gaining any power.
I agree with that. Yeah, there's an old KGB playbook play called Nonlinear Warfare, where they would give both sides of the argument all this data to make them think that they're right, so they could never come together and have a discussion, the right or the left. And it's kind of something, before I was trying to get into that, before you came on, that, each one of these social medias that we have, and I'm going Twitter, Instagram, and I'm not on TikTok, so I don't really know, but, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And I know Facebook owns both Instagram and Facebook, or Meta. But each one of them has their own vibe, right? And what you're willing to say on one, you may not say on the other. So I made a mistake of linking my Instagram to my Facebook.
And they try to get you to do that every time you post. There's a pop-up like, hey, are you sure you don't want to be posting this to Facebook too?
Yeah,
so it's
and it was the biggest mistake I ever made, because I really talk the most smack on Twitter, and then I try not to get political on Instagram, but things are so crazy right now. I kind of been posting a little bit, and then I forgot that it went to Facebook, and man, I mean, I'm getting murdered by friends. Friends are going nuts on me on Facebook, and I bring it up because their argument is that what they don't understand is, like, they think because I don't agree with them, I'm on the other side. And they don't understand that I'm on nobody's side. I despise both sides of this argument, and and because they don't see me go off on, let's say, Trump or anything on Facebook, because I try to keep a lot of the politics off of Facebook, and I made the mistake of letting it go to Instagram. They don't see me talking shit about the Zionism and all, and the Palantir stuff and all that stuff that I talk all the time on Twitter, and very little on Instagram. But they can't come to grips with that. I think both sides are corrupt. Like what's going on right now with immigration in America. Joe Biden and Donald Trump work together on that. This has been a tag team. Biden gets in with a really shady election, brings in all the illegals, and then Trump acts like he's the hero to the right by trying to get rid of them. But they're both trying to bring in martial law.
Good, bad cop. Last time it's the same thing.
Bad cop.
Yeah.
Good cop,
yeah.
but really bad cop.
It's bad cop.
Well, I think
cop.
unless you know who owns your government, nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
And people don't want to admit to who owns the government. And Trump's obviously beholden to them. And so therefore nothing can change within the present structure of global governance. But there are interesting things that happen within it. But these talking points of what's going on in the media, they're of certainly no interest to me, but they keep people busy all day long on issues of absolutely no importance when they could be applying themselves to things that really matter. That's my opinion on that.
What's very interesting is, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name of the bank correctly. Deutsche Bank is Deutsche
Bank, yeah.
Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank funded Hitler. Guess who else they're funding right now? Mondani. The
New York guy.
Really, that's funny.
Isn't that crazy?
No
People,
surprise.
that data will never enter anybody's head if you're just taking the news, whether it's Fox News or MSNBC, CNN. You'll never hear that.
People
data.
don't go back that far, though, do they, Johnny? I mean,
I'm
they
Sam,
tend
by the way,
to
just so
have
you know. I'm Sam. Johnny is the guy on the board, so I'm Sam.
Oh, so I don't know. Hi, Johnny.
It's all
It just
good.
says Johnny Woodard underneath
Yeah,
it.
that's sorry. It's my account.
Sorry
Used
about
to
that,
send out
dude.
those images.
Our
That's
apologies, dude. We should have introduced ourselves before, so our apologies.
It's all right.
for
It'd be easy to just call you the two Johnnies. you know?
Yeah.
Johnny 1 and Johnny 2.
that. I'll be Johnny. I'll be Johnny too.
I've
I'm
been
fine
Johnny
with that.
4 my whole life.
I could be Johnny 3.
Yeah. How do you say Johnny in Spanish?
Cuatro.
And this
Cuatro.
what? Johnny is
yeah,
Quattro?
Johnny
That's
Quattro.
crazy.
No, I
Go
think
on
Johnny
with what
4,
you're
my
saying,
bad.
sir.
That's Juan or something, right? Johannes or something. No, that's German.
Go on, Mark. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I mean, I just think that it's good to make these points about governance and see if anyone kind of latches on, because it's a very important thing. And I think that all of this stuff, I follow it, but it's a kind of circus arena. And there are theories that governance works in a much higher dimension than the public see. And they think it's a conspiracy theory. But in actual fact, the way governance works is incredibly simple, because we're looking at global plunder and it's happening all over the world. And it's just land grabbing by land pirates on the back of a lie. And it's happening in every country. But the main thing is, what does one do about it? One has to find a way around this. And to me, that's the key, because that makes it interesting, quite exciting, and it takes away this feeling of disempowerment that people have, which leads them into anger.
All right, guys, real quick, I want to thank our good friends at Home Chef. Listen, kids are back in school, and between drop-offs, pickups, homework, and don't even get me started on bath time, which is a real battle, okay? The last thing you want to think about is what's for dinner. Home Chef takes the stress off your plate with fresh, pre-portioned meals for the entire family, which makes weeknights so much easier and more enjoyable.
Home Chef makes cooking simple. Fresh food delivered, easy recipes to follow, and meals that actually taste great. Home Chef is rated #1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease. Whatever kind of day it is, classic recipes with fresh ingredients, 30-minute meals, oven-ready trays, or quick microwave options, Home Chef has you covered. There's even a dedicated family menu for hassle-free, delicious dinners. And it's not one size fits all. Home Chef has over 30 meal options each week for choices for different diets and tastes. Plus, it's affordable. Home Chef customers save an average of $86 per month on groceries. And on nights when you need something done easy, Home Chef's 5-ingredient meals are perfect. 5 fresh, pre-portioned ingredients, and dinner is done.
So for a limited time, Home Chef is offering our listeners 50% off and free shipping for your first box, plus free dessert for life. Go to homechef.com/tinfoil tinfoil. That's homechef.com/tinfoil for 50% off your first box and free dessert for life. homechef.com/tinfoil. Must be an active subscriber to receive the free desserts. And we thank them for sponsoring our show. I want to tell you about our good friends at Cornbread Hemp, okay? Listen, anxiety, stress, can't sleep, all that stuff. Cornbread has you covered. Let me tell you about Cornbread Hemp. Have you been looking for a natural way to relieve aches and discomfort? The CBD gummies from Cornbread Hemp are formulated to work with your body and not against it. Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies are made to help you feel better, whether it's stress, discomfort, or just needing a little relaxation. They only use the best part of the hemp plant, the flower, formulated to help relieve discomfort, stress, and sleeplessness. All products are third-party lab tested and USDA organic to ensure safety and purity. Okay, so here's what we need you to do. Right now, Tinfoil Hat listeners, aka the Swarm, okay, can save 30% on their first order. Just head to cornbreadhemp.com/tinfoil. That's cornbreadhemp/tinfoil. And use the code tinfoil at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/tinfoil. And use the code tinfoil. And we thank them for sponsoring our show. We often talk on the show that it's this show to me is not about like changing anything. I really do believe, and we're very blessed to have we have loyal listeners for like the show's been on for like 9 years. In December will be 9 years, and we have a bunch of new listeners. Welcome everybody. That the key to this show isn't to like try to wake anybody up or tell, the key to me is to hear the show so you know the playbook and the psyops that they're running so you don't allow that to fall into that. And that's really the key. I've been talking a lot about this is like you in my humble opinion, you can't change the system. The system can't be changed. The only way you get...
Yeah, but it's not the system that you change. It's yourself and the way you operate within the system.
I agree.
Because it's all about governance. So governance starts with self-governance.
Yes.
So all governance starts with you. And you are ultimately responsible for everything you do. Once you take full responsibility, then you get out of this idea that there's trying to be imposed, that somehow you are given these rights within a community. And of course, there's no such thing as community rights. All rights come from the rights of an individual within a community. So in other words, people who don't take absolute responsibility for their own actions will be led. And as the Roman maxim states, ignorance of the law is no excuse. So unless you educate yourself to the principles of governance on the planet, then you cannot hope to actually achieve any sense of satisfaction or kind of progress. That's my view, you see, that it comes from the individual. And the way that I got into this was to actually openly challenge what was going on. And that led to a series of events which were quite scary at times, because I realized that there are a lot of people who are in this system who have got everything covered, of course, and they'll surveil you and threaten you and all sorts of things. But once you look how it actually works and you find out, that is very, very liberating, because you find out where the Achilles heel of governance actually is, especially when it's standing on your own neck. And I've done some things that the world will never find out about because nobody will report them. Nobody in the mainstream media and nobody in the alternative media. And that, to me, is a very good indication of how people are governing themselves. So I do take this stuff seriously, but I do like to have good fun with it as well. And I think everything has to be balanced. We have to have a balanced view of the whole thing. And it's all about integration. It's all about growing and going through veils of illusion. But the problem is that people will go through, say, one veil, like they'll get maybe that COVID was a scam, but they won't get the, say, global to local governance, or they won't get other issues, say to do with international terrorism. Well, that's no good because you're not understanding the system, because terrorism is a form of governance. Pandemics are a form of governance. Everything that's imposed is governance. So you have to look at it and go, how is this governance making sense? And then you look for the holes in it and say, no, it's hypocritical, it's not true. So what's the alternative? Well, there's always a way around everything. And that to me is the key to it all, getting beyond the talking points and into areas where you realize that the whole system can be got around. And that's what happened during the COVID thing. I got around the whole system. I traveled all over the place. And I'd done a lot of stuff in Britain that it kind of astounded me. I didn't think it was possible that one person could do it. And it's no ego involved in this. I was just genuinely astonished about the things that I was thrown into. And I just realized that the way that things work is a template, and that template has not got more complicated. It's got incredibly simple. And that's one of the key things, I think, that I like to try and put out.
I agree with you. And it's this thing that I've talked about on other shows, but it's about, again, you can't change a system. You have to learn how to beat the system. And by beating the system, you show other people how to beat the system.
Yes.
And then the system adapts to the new reality of everybody beating it. It's like, even in, like, I'm a stand-up comic, and you can just watch, like, the old way was to get on the Tonight Show, get in a sitcom, get in a movie, and if you couldn't fit in that, you were done. Well, then MySpace comes and everybody starts, oh, I'm going to get a following through MySpace.
Remember MySpace? I love that.
I love
that. I used to speak to people on there, like Mike Garson, who's David Bowie's pianist, who played on Aladdin Sane and all. I loved MySpace.
I loved MySpace.
Contact people. It was great.
The only problem I had was that hot Asian chicks would put so much music on their profile, and your girlfriend would be like, "What are you looking at?"
You've slightly changed the subject there, haven't you?
How do I turn this down? How do I turn this down? But it adapts. It adapts. You know, it's like the way to make it 20 years ago. You can't make it anymore like that. So because people keep beating the system eventually adapts to you. So if you want change, you can't go out there and march and all that stuff. Maybe that. But it's really about just like, hey, dude, figure out the system, figure out what you don't like about it, beat the system, and enough people will watch you. Like, you know, I'm in recovery. I get people hit me up all the time about getting sober. I'm like, bang, there you go. That's how you beat the system. You don't get lost in drugs and alcohol and in low vibrational. People start changing, change. That's how you beat the system. I wanted to get into
I'd be interested actually to talk about that. You know, the addiction thing is a very, very important issue. How did you get around that?
For me, it was, you know, I had a problem with methamphetamines, and I had kids, and one day I went out and I was begged to come home, and I didn't want, I realized that, like, my kids, they were 6 months old at the time, and I'm like, they didn't ask to have a junkie for a dad, and I'm like, this is the rock bottom I had begged for, you know, like I was a functioning drug addict, and it was just slow mediocre. I was just slowly becoming more and more mediocre, and then I just was like, I don't want these kids to grow up with a junkie dad, so I decided that was it, and then I just did it in 24-hour increments. Like, I didn't try to build Rome in a day. I just said, you know what, I got this prayer from a friend of mine named Jimmy Cohen, and he was like, Sammy, you're trying to do too much at once. He goes, this is what I want you to do. When you feel like using, just ask God for 24 hours. And I remember I would see people I did drugs with, and I would get this real, like, my body would start to hum because it was like, let's do drugs. And so I did the prayer, and I got through it, and then I started doing the prayer every time I started feeling it, and God gave me 24 hours. Because what you say is like, God, give me 24 hours. Maybe tomorrow I'll use, but not today. And then the next day you do that again, and then next thing you know, you're getting to a year. And I just tell people, get a year and see how your life is. And like, it may not be financially or career different, but do you have hope in your heart? And once you have hope in your heart, then you got a chance. Because, you know, what drugs and alcohol do, and even he does, is it really just zaps the hope you have at a high vibrational life. So once you start doing that, then bang, next thing you know, you got a year, then you got 2 years, and then you're helping other people get to that year because you got to give it away. If you don't give it away, then you lose it.
Is it the same thing with doing like 24 hours? Like whenever you want to, like 24
Every day
hours?
off adult films is like winning the Super Bowl. But once I got the 60 days, I'm like, oh, I don't crave it anymore. But you just got to say, no matter what, I'm not going to watch this. And like ease into it, dude. Like if you have some movies of yourself getting weird, you can watch that to help you get through.
That's great.
You know, just get through it, dude. And then at some point, if you want to wean off that, but your own work is fine.
Well,
it's just watching other people with trauma just really lean into their trauma. That's where, because you know the occult, Mark. It's like I just find the adult film industry is a giant humiliation ritual. You're watching somebody humiliate themselves for cash and prizes.
There's also an algorithm that pulls you into darker and darker.
That's
corners.
all.
Well, that's absolutely true. That is a very, very good point, because that is not talked about too much. That you can get dragged out. I think social media does this.
Yes.
Social media is like a cesspit, and I stopped using it completely. But it's very interesting what you're saying about that you had to kind of hit rock bottom and see yourself. I mean, I know a few people that's happened to, but it's a very important thing to learn from, and you get to know yourself. And I think that's the most important thing, because, you know, if you're still, I know people who they stop being alcoholics, but they still relapse. Well, that's no good either. And obviously, you know, part of what I did was in show business for about 30 years. I was touring with bands and stuff like that. And I knew a lot of junkies who were functioning in bands and a lot of alcoholics, because, of course, in show business, if you're an alcoholic, you're a hellraiser.
Yeah.
But if you're an alcoholic in normal life, you're just a low-life bum, you know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of an interesting thing, because I met people who were addicts, but they were quite high functioning. But of course, alcohol is, I think, you know, I don't think methamphetamine is very forgiving, but alcohol over a long period of time, unless you do really hard alcohol, people don't really feel it for years and years. I knew alcoholics who were 86, and a very famous actress I knew. She was an alcoholic, she smoked, but she looked after herself in other ways. But she was 86 when she died, but she was an industrial level drinker. And I knew a lot of people in show business like that. There was an actor who died, I won't mention his name, but he was in a lot of movies. And I found out that he actually was drinking so much that he was coming down off it with a lot of hash and then drinking another bottle of port on top of drinking all day. Yeah. And I thought, that's just like way beyond what I could understand, because when I was out and about in Soho in London, you know, a lot of the places there have closed down now, but there's a lot of good late night clubs, and you could go and have a drink and everyone expected you to be sober all the time. But these people were kind of functioning alcoholics, you know. And I think if you get to that point where you don't need it anymore, everything purifies. I know it sounds a bit corny to say that, but I think that you are holding yourself back when you take anything. I actually gave up alcohol completely. I never drank that much, but I did it overnight. I thought, I'm not going to do that again.
Yep.
And it's a strange thing, actually, because I thought, well, I'll always enjoy a glass of wine with my meal up. So, but no, I just made that decision, and it's a hard thing to do. I mean, a friend of mine, he was an alcoholic for years, and he only came to a crisis when he was going psychotic, and he smashed his guitar up outside my house. I couldn't find him for 2 days. And then he actually became a born-again Christian, and it really changed him, though. So it's all about governance. And
yes,
I find this really fascinating because, of course, it can start with trauma or hedonism. It's a kind of weird thing, isn't it? Do you think in your case the addiction came through trauma or just pure hedonism?
Probably a little bit of both. I
yes.
mean, like I've always said this, that my sex addiction really fueled all my other addictions. And
yes,
the problem with sex addiction is that it is probably the most high functioning of all the addictions.
Yes, it
meaning
is.
you can totally go to work, thrive at your work, but then you're in this. We've kind of been convinced that debauchery is like this kind of higher form of love and
Yes.
sex when it's really it's low vibrational. So, and I've had friends who have been very publicly taken down in the national news, and they're very good people. They really are good people, but they had a sex addiction, and I think you're dealing in sex magic every time you do this, and you're just conjuring spirits all the time, and we don't realize that, and then eventually it catches up with you because we live in this kind of dual kind of society where it's like we are convincing everybody that freaky kinky stuff is hot while at the same time demanding puritanism. It's very weird to me where like, oh man, like you see a bunch of like pro athletes in America get in trouble for BDSM stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, and then we can't believe you're into this stuff. Oh my God, you're a monster. While at the same time, 50 Shades of Grey is making like $50 million at the box office. It's this kind of weird, two-way.
Well, it again, it's a social engineered phenomenon because it's all about infiltration. And this idea of free love and all the rest of it, it came out, as it came out of social engineering in the 50s and 60s.
Yes, hippie.
And of course, the Timothy Leary stuff and the flooding of the country with drugs and all the rest of it. And this is a really important point that it's all about consent. It's like any form of demonism needs your consent.
Yes.
And of course, demonic entities come through alcohol. They come through methamphetamine, particularly. I did a lot of shows with Jerry Marzinski, who's a psychiatric practitioner who worked at the biggest psychiatric institute in America, which is closed now. It's in Milledgeville, Georgia. And he had 10,000 patients. And the stories that he told on the radio, I couldn't believe it. And I was very close to somebody, this girl who was spiritually possessed. She had very strong demonic attachments. And you learn a hell of a lot when you learn how that demonic realm works, because it's a hierarchical realm. But the idea is, of course, that if you are not in control of your awareness, something else can be. There's a great book called it's by a Private Ritchie, and it's called something like Back to Tomorrow. And he was recruited into the US Air Force as a conscript in, I think, the 50s. And he became very ill in this RAF hospital. And he had an out-of-body experience. And he could go around the whole of the base, and he saw his mates in the bar. He could see them from from a third perspective. And he saw them getting drunk. And as they were getting drunk, these things were jumping into them.
Wow.
Ooh.
Wow.
And I think this is what happens because, you've seen this. You've seen people just suddenly go completely mental who are normal on the drugs. And it's not the drug that's doing it. It's them opening up to something that's taken them over. I'm not saying 100% of the time, but I've seen it happen a lot. And this demonic possession thing, I think, is something that the people who want to control are flooding us with. Therefore, alcohol, drugs, these are weapons. These are weapons to make people comply. And these systems which hierarchical, which the demons work in, are very similar to what happens in the physical world. And I found that you could actually get rid of demonic entities within people, or they can do it. And I know people who've done it. But I think this is one of the biggest things that we're fighting. It's not principalities. It's what's getting into people's minds.
Yes.
And people talk about mind control, but most people are under some form of mind control unless they have an open, pure awareness and they know it and they can sort of see everything that's coming in. And that takes time. And therefore, I think what they did was, with especially Westerners, they took them into this fake Hinduism, which meant like to be receptive with opening yourself up to meditational commands from a cult leader. And that's been massive, and it still is. And I spent a long time in Nepal, and there was these temples that cropped up. And there was a Shiva, they said, they pray to Shiva. We don't know who they are. We think it's black money. And I know this cult because this cult are big around the world. They have allegedly about 40 billion. But they are controlled at the top end by demons. This sounds wild to some people, but I know people who've been in the cult and managed to see them because they channel them. And these are hierarchical families. These are Brahmins who are doing it. And so these things, it's all a system of control. It's very fascinating.
Yeah, I agree. You know, they call alcoholic spirits, you know.
Yes.
That's what they call alcohol. It's, hey, man, let's have some spirits. Hey,
And you know the people that he's talking, that are like that it's just a different person. When there's some people, you know, like a lot of people, they drink, they just kind of get mellowed out, a little quiet maybe. And some people, it is like something in habits. That book's called Return from Tomorrow, by the way. I was checking
Return from Tomorrow, that's it, yes.
Yeah. Guys, real quick, I'll tell you about our good friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. Listen, the fractional reserve banking is completely out of control. Your dollar's worth less and less every day. Stabilize your money. Get into precious metals. Let me tell you about Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. If you're paying attention, you know that de-dollarization is real. Fiat is fake, and you don't want to be left holding the bag when the dollar collapses. Gold and silver has been money through all of recorded history and are an excellent way to protect yourself from inflation and geopolitical turmoil. That's why I trust my friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver for all things precious metal. Veteran-owned and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau. No transaction is too big or too small, and you can even roll over your 401k or IRA into physical gold and silver. And if you think you can't afford precious metals, think again. With the Wolf Pack monthly membership program, you can get gold and silver delivered directly to your door for as little as $50 a month. Wise Wolf Gold and Silver also deals in and accepts Bitcoin. So go to samtripoli.gold, promo code tinfoil at checkout to receive free constitutional silver. And remember, in the world of bulls and bears, be the wolf. You know, one of my algorithms on YouTube is watching police body cams, and you literally watch people get high on drugs, drunk on alcohol, and they just act a fool. And you're like, well, what if that isn't them? What if they are possessed by something that's making them make the worst decision, so they destroy their lives? I mean, in one night of
that's
chaos.
exactly, you've got it in one. That's exactly it. And when you let them, I've seen it happen, because the theory of this, that because Jerry was very good on this. I spoke to him in 2015 when I'd just gone through this situation, which was like mind-blowing. It was other dimensional. The things that were happening around me were not from the physical world. And he talked to me about 6 hours, and we did a load of shows after it. But not many people talk about this. Of course, it's taboo in the psychiatric world because they want to push materialistic atheism on everybody.
Yeah.
But the real power we have is the divine spirit, the Holy Spirit that we can tap into, and we stop ourselves doing that. And the whole theory of control and this imposition of governance, which is not good for us, is that it takes us away from our own power. So you have to disempower the victim. And that is exactly what happens in the demonic realm. They disempower you, they take over you, then they abuse you.
Disempowering. I love that. I think that's great. Let me ask you a question. And by the way, I think that what we're talking about with alcohol and methamphetamines, I think you can now apply this to this industrial grade marijuana that's now being
the
pushed.
skunk. They call it skunk in the UK. And a friend of mine went completely psychotic on that.
Yep,
I mean,
I see
absolutely psycho.
I see it in the recovery rooms. People now come in they're like, yeah, I have a problem with weed,
so
and they have
interesting.
tweaker energy, dude.
It used to be, remember, like, was it Eric Roberts who was on Celebrity Rehab, and people just laughed him out of the room for being there for weed? Because it used to be, it was just, even
because
that
we used to
recently.
think it's the way that the average person looks at the hippie movement. They think it is a cultural revolution.
ditch weed
It
and
was
stuff.
completely astroturfed by the CIA and the FBI. But we think of weed like our grandpa's weed or super young people, their great grandpa's weed.
Well, what blows my mind is when people say I'm sober Cali or Cali sober or whatever, and you know exactly what that means.
Is that weed?
Yeah, that means they'll smoke. They'll do they're smoking weed every day, but they're Cali sober, which means obviously no liquor.
Even just vaporizing it gets so much more of it, right?
Oh yeah, these dabs and all that stuff. But what I wanted to ask you about, you brought up something. So there's this whole discussion about the fallen angels and what they represent. Yes. I have a friend of mine, he's a devout Christian. He thinks when God destroyed the Tower of Babel, he sent all the humanity in different directions, and he gave them someone installed fallen angels as gods of those areas. Now, you brought up Hinduism. Do you think that Hinduism and a lot of these other offshoot religions, and I know there's probably more Asians than anywhere else in the world, more Asians than anybody else, but these offshoot, religions such as Hinduism, do you think they worship fallen angels?
I think that Hinduism is a construct of the Brahmins. I did a show called The Cult That Controls Cults, something like that. It was a few months ago. But it was really about how these systems are interlinked. So the Brahmin system is of a hierarchy. They give people multiple gods to worship, which disempowers them. So they do day-to-day rituals to all these different gods. They keep themselves busy. The pharaohs did exactly the people who were behind the pharaohs, the priesthood behind the pharaohs did exactly the same thing, because the ancient Egyptian cult is just as neurotic. In other words, everything that you're doing has to be getting yourself ready for when you die, and then you take all your material stuff into the next life. It's complete garbage cult, the pharaonic cult. And so the people behind that, I think, are the same type of people as are behind the Brahmins and the same type of people who are behind the Pharisees. I think these are all control systems which are reasonably clever, but they are all pretty much working in the same way, but on different genetic types.
So when we talk Brahmins, we're not talking the family of Canada that's been connected to all these like Zionist groups, like the mega group. Are you talking?
Oh, you mean the family name Brahmin?
Yeah. When you talk,
no, I'm talking about the Brahmin priesthood. So in India and Nepal as well, you have families who are named after Brahmins, but there's different Brahmin names. So they have a caste system. So some people will be warriors, some people will be cleaners, and then you've got the Brahmins, who are generally just the administrators these days, but they have a higher caste system. But the real Brahmins are the people who are controlling the daily rituals of the people, because in Hinduism, most of it revolves around daily ritual. If you look at the Babylonian Talmud, it opens with an argument over ritual, needless and pointless ritual. Two rabbis arguing about what time of day they do something which is totally inconsequential to their lives and has no spiritual impact on them at all. So in other words, it's the same thing. Ritual keeps people in a state of constant activity with no time to focus on anything higher. And I have friends who are Hindus who do all this stuff, very nice people, but I don't agree with the ritual and the lifestyle that people need to adhere to be part of these cults. I think that the original Christianity, the way, was actually smashing all that apart. And of course, that got infiltrated and completely misrepresented. But the idea is that you have a system of governance where people are kept very busy and in fear. And that is particularly relevant to the Pharisaic system, the Brahmin system, and yes, the Pharaoh system, which are three of the most successful control systems on the planet.
I completely agree. So you brought up the city of London, and I've been talking to people, mostly to myself, but I've been talking to people about what we've seen is that this Bank of England has destroyed China. It's destroyed Russia. It's destroyed Germany. It did unimaginable things to India. Okay. And now it is of my belief that they are trying to implode America. And I think it would be England as well. What's going on in England? I know the city of London is in England. We all know it's not technically a part of England. It's a sovereign territory.
It's a separate city-state that is without the jurisdiction of Britain.
And so can we get into like the city of London and, Judaism and what that all represents in your humble opinion, like the Britain and the lost tribe of Judah?
Yes, to give people a little bit of background here, we're going into an enormous subject which took me about 10 years even to scrape the surface of. And that is that Britain was the original home of Christianity. The Druidic religion was very advanced, and the Druids embraced Christianity way before the Romans had actually rewritten the history. So the history of Britain was rewritten by the Romans. The history of Europe was pretty much rewritten by the Romans. And we have to look who the Romans were. The Romans were a conglomeration of different people under one banner. So there's no such thing as the Romans. There was no such thing as the ancient Greeks. There were the Hellenes and other people who functioned generally under similar systems of governance or were absorbed. Now, the idea is that Britain was the true home of Christianity, was that Britain was a very important place and a magical place, and that this was covered up because Constantine wished to relocate Christianity to his base, somewhere near his base in Constantinople. So he chose what is now modern-day Israel. And of course, modern-day Israel was formed in 1948 as the State of Israel. There is no evidence that any of the Bible stories happened there. They keep trying to contrive evidence, but there isn't any. So there is some Roman stuff there, like the Wailing Wall. I've been to Jerusalem. It's fake. It's an oldish kind of town, but there's nothing special about it. The idea is that at some point in the past, Britain was smashed apart, as the rest of the world has been, by catastrophe. And this theory is called catastrophism. So the state has this idea called uniformitarianism, and that came out of such people like Thomas Paine, the Enlightenment. In other words, that things have stayed relatively stable and the materialistic view of the world is correct, and that science is the way that people decode everything. And now we have the science, of course, which is not science at all. It's called consensus, and it's just made up. So the idea is that Britain was a very powerful and advanced civilization. And in 1322 BC, it was smashed apart from Scandinavia. And that caused a lot of people to spread out from that continent, which a writer called William Comyns Beaumont claims was the original Atlantis. Now, I don't really go too much into the Atlantis story because it's speculation. But when I started looking at this, and a friend of mine had curated the books of William Comyns Beaumont from the Du Maurier family, who were related into the Beaumonts. And Beaumont was actually a journalist and a writer, and a very, very successful writer and editor of the Daily Mail. And he had this theory that Constantine had relocated Christianity around 325 AD, and places in the Middle East, they created these places, and then they magically found the cross of Jesus, they found the nails, and they found the site. Now, that site was originally a temple to Venus in 119 AD. So what happened was that Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where it is now, that's been burnt down and ransacked several times and rebuilt. It is not an original building, and it never was an original building. So what they did is they constructed these places in the Middle East for the pilgrims. And so people were relocating their belief system to the Middle East. And then I started looking into the history of Christianity in the British Isles. And they say that it was Augustine in 597 AD who converted King Ethelbert of Kent, and this spread Christianity because the Romans have labelled every church in Britain, and now, of course, the National Trust, owns or manages ancient sites, they always say this church dates from around 600 AD. They have to say that because the Romans are saying that Christianity didn't fully penetrate Britain until 597 AD. Even the Romans contradict that. So even the Roman documents contradict that. And there are several people labeled heretics who have said that Britain was the home of Christianity. And the more I looked into it, the more it started to make sense. And the more it made sense that it's been taken over and is being absolutely destroyed. So Britain has to be destroyed. Its culture has to be destroyed. And that is the only way that they can start to really take control in a way that will destroy all the spirituality, because there are places in Britain that are very powerful, and that power is still there. This all sounds a bit esoteric. I don't want it to, because again, it's about management. But when I started looking into this, I thought it was completely absurd that the stories from the Middle East had actually taken place in Britain. And it's not a nationalistic thing. It's nothing to do with that. It's to do with the ancient history of Britain, which was rewritten. So I'm not expecting anyone to believe this. I'm not trying to turn it into a cult. It's an area of research which has captivated me, and I'm trying to get to the truth.
So with that said, we've had guests on before, and I don't believe this, but they have discussed whether Jesus was real or not. What is your thoughts on that?
I think he existed. I think that he was actually in Britain. There is a story, of course, of Joseph of Arimathea, who was a very wealthy trader, and he took the young Jesus to the tin mines in Cornwall and around Somerset. A church was founded 30 AD in Glastonbury, and that church was a round church. And the Druids, who I believe adopted Christianity, and Jesus was in the British Isles, they always worshipped in circles because they don't have sides, and you can see everything within a circle because a circle sees all directions. And so the original temples were in the open air. So the idea of the control system is that they build square temples, and you have to go there and consult with their priesthood. And the idea was that there was an advanced civilization which was highly evolved in that they had a good sense of law and order, they had a good moral code, and also they had an oral tradition which was passed down for thousands of years. And that oral tradition had to be destroyed, and it was destroyed by the Catholic Church. However, some of that priesthood infiltrated the Catholic Church. But to answer your question, yes, I do believe that Jesus was real and he was in Britain. And I did a story called a show called Albion's Apostles. And in Glastonbury, there's a place called Weary All Hill. And the story is that Joseph, after the crucifixion, he had this bush that he'd brought back from the Middle East, because obviously we're traders. We're talking about this is the time of the Phoenicians. So the trade routes came from that way. So Joseph was following trade routes because Britain was a very prosperous place. So Britain had all this tin. They were trading with the world. So the idea is that Joseph planted this bush, and it's on Weary All Hill, and that bush was vandalized in 2015. But this is a bit esoteric. But to me, there are places in Britain that have a very high energetic sort of atmosphere and higher abilities when you're there. And Somerset is one of those places, and that's allegedly where Jesus went. But this is all stuff that I kind of put together myself later. But the actual facts are, it looks like the facts are, that Jesus did go to Britain. And there are a lot of old folk tales about it. I'm not expecting anyone to believe it, but it's very much worth looking into. But to me, I go with what makes sense. A, B, C, D. How do you get to D? Does it make sense? It makes sense. When I looked into it, everything made sense because the sites were there in Britain, as discussed in the books of William Comyns Beaumont. He did several books. This was in the early 1900s. He died in about 1954, I think. But his first book was called The Riddle of Prehistoric Britain. Then he did The Mysterious Comet, which was the comet that smashed apart the landmass from Scandinavia. And the actual cometary impact was around Scotland. It was actually at Fingal's Cave in Scotland. So he gives an exact time and a date for this from the geological records, because Beaumont was actually, he was a meteorologist before that existed. It was actually called meteorism. Now, meteorism just means something that happens in your stomach. It's been completely forgotten. But of course, we have the meteorological office and we have meteorologists. But the thing that linked Jesus to the British Isles was basically the backstory with the Druids. And I started really researching the Druidry. And you have to be careful with that because, of course, the Druidic history was completely written by the Romans. But some of it survived through the church, especially in Ireland. And there is this idea that the kings of Ireland, up to like Luga MacLuga in about 10 or 1100s, they knew about this, and it was not a secret, but it was a known thing that Britain was the home of Christianity.
Is that book that you just meant, Prehistoric Britain, is that by Timothy Darville?
It's William Comyns Beaumont.
Oh, William.
Now, I just want to ask for a bit of clarification. Now, are you suggesting this happened during the so-called lost years, or actually, are you saying the events of the Bible were in large part on the British?
When I first heard this, that the events of the Bible and the places they were referring to were actually in Britain, I laughed it out of the room.
Interesting. Okay.
But that's what I'm saying. But I'm not saying it lightly. I'm saying it through 10 years of actual research.
Yeah.
Because I've researched the places. And there's something that resonates with it very, very powerfully. Now, interestingly, I went to the modern day state of Israel, and there is nothing there. There is nothing there. The whole place is a decoy, in my opinion. And that would make sense. That would make absolute sense with what's going on. So with global politics and what's happening at the moment, and Israel's being allowed to destroy itself, which I think was the original intention. Of course, the way that it's happened so quickly recently, over the past couple of years, is, to me, almost being allowed to happen. I say almost because I think there is resistance to it. But I think the point is that Zionism was set up to fulfill a function. And that function may be coming to an end. And that place in the Middle East, to me, was a decoy. There was nothing there. There was no spiritual power in that country, in that piece of land. And if you look at the history of it, it's quite interesting, because on the first Aliyah after the Second World War, when the illegal immigrants turned up in Cyprus, the British helped them over there. It's called British Mandatory Palestine, of course. The British set it up. Then, of course, the Haganah and the Irgun, as soon as they had got in, the Zionism was always militant. The Zionism was always self-destructive because they killed the British. They did the King David Hotel bombing. The Stern Gang were killing the British. They were robbing banks. There was two groups called the Haganah and the Irgun. And the Haganah and the Irgun, the people who were in that, who were killing the British, are now in, or were in, especially around the time of 9/11, the American government.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that Frank Lowy, who was involved with the Twin Towers, he was knighted by the Queen before she died. And he is an arch-Zionist, and he was, I think his parents were in the Haganah. But there was two groups, the Haganah and the Irgun, and they didn't always agree with each other. But the terrorism started as soon as the immigrants landed. And Zionism was originally a kind of idealism. And I would actually rather talk to someone like Avraham Stern than a complete and utter maniac like Netanyahu.
Yes.
Because I think the original people who went there, even though they may have been misguided, did have some principles. So even though Stern was a terrorist, I would still rather talk to him than the lowlife that is leading Israel at the moment.
When you say you think the Israel project is coming to an end, what does that look like to you?
It looks like they're destroying themselves in the eyes of the world.
And there will be no Israel after that, or will it change? Because I don't know how it goes on after this. I don't know how it's allowed to continue in any kind of function as a state or a country after this. I mean, there's some biblical prophecy where the world wants to go to war with Israel, and that's why a lot of people think everything's being done out in the open to piss people off at Israel, so everyone goes in there. There's prophecy that the Europeans will go in and start to regulate Gaza. But do you think, based on your decades of research, do you think there's a way for Israel to still function after this?
Well, I don't think it does function. And I don't think it's ever functioned because it was an ideological project. And I read about the formation of Israel many years ago. And there was a book called Israel by Chaim Bermant, and it came out in 1967. It's very interesting because the only people who wanted to go there were idealists and intellectuals. Nobody wanted to go there. No Jews wanted to go to Israel.
Yes.
So what happened was they brought in hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants from Russia. And Russia is the second spoken language in Israel, I think, to this day. So basically, a load of people who were idealists came over from Eastern Europe, and they said that they were going home when they had no connection with it whatsoever. They have no connection with the Middle East. So I think there's a strong possibility at the high end they were funneled there for a very good reason. So they'd be surrounded by their enemies and basically destroy themselves. That would make sense. Because if the group became troublesome, as they have, then there must be a higher governing system that's in place that is letting them do it. Because they have been allowed to get away with this genocide. And of course, Britain is 100% behind that genocide.
Yes, 100%. I always say that, you got the, it's the on everything. And I'm not saying there aren't involved.
I don't think we need to use the word because it's very misleading.
Okay.
The word Jew came from Yehuda. So the people who we're talking about are not from the tribe of Yehuda.
Okay,
so
I'm listening.
It's a completely false premise. The word Jew originated not that long ago. It was only really, it was around 800, but then it came in just around the 14th century. It started to be used in print because there was different versions of it before, like you and Lou, and they were these different words. So the word is a modern construct historically. So I don't think it's helpful to use that word when we're talking about this governance system in Israel, even though that's the cover story. So I don't consider this to be a religious thing at all. There was never anything religious about Zionism. It was attaching itself to certain religious principles and ideologies which had nothing to do with it. So I think Zionism was a governing thing that was set up, and it's been very successful infiltrating the world governments. It's been very successful as a front. So there is a theory that the people who would call themselves are a front for something else, and they're merely being used. And that is something I think that's a very strong possibility, not a popular view though at all.
Do you think they picked Israel or the territory of Israel because of trade routes?
What do you mean? Modern day Israel?
Yeah, the quickest way to have goods go from Asia and Africa is through the land bridge that's basically Israel. And whether you get in Khazarians or not, there's this whole belief that a lot of the high ups are former Khazarians, and Khazarians have always controlled trade routes. They controlled a big chunk of the Silk Road, and if you look at the geopolitical, if you look at the map of Israel, it is the fastest trade route to get goods from Africa and Asia into Europe. So
but there's a problem with that because Israel really doesn't produce anything.
Well, they would control the trade coming from.
Yes,
Africa
but now Yemen's controlling it.
Yeah, and that's a big.
You see what I mean? So when you look at it, it's interesting because there's layers of this. You're going into the Khazarians thing, that's about 700 AD, mass conversion. But there's always been these mass conversions up to the Sabbatean Frankists, which was the most destructive of them so far, which was Sabbatai Zvi and later Jacob Frank, two absolutely manic lunatics. Jacob Frank was a psychopath, but he managed to get millions of people who call themselves following him, same as Sabbatai Zvi. And he originally had declared himself to be the Messiah in 1666, and he was living in Smyrna, which is now Izmir in Turkey. He was actually banned from Izmir because he was a lunatic. And the people say he was what you'd now call bipolar. I think he was way more crazy than that, but he was obviously charismatic. So when we're talking about this, we have to take into consideration what the past of it actually is. It doesn't have a central belief system. The Kabbalah was a later introduction from the 1200 in the Languedoc, and that infiltrated Freemasonry, became the Scottish Rite. So we're talking about an infiltration system, really, rather than a religion. So when we look at what has come out of it, we have to ask ourselves, is this a good governing system? Because Sabbatai Zvi was, he was given a choice in Turkey at the time. The Sultan said, you either convert to Islam or we execute you. So he converted to Islam and he became the doorman of the Sultan. So then the followers of Sabbatai Zvi became the Donmei. And the Donmei still exist. And the Donmei exist in Freemasonic lodges all through Turkey and into Eastern Europe and Central Europe and probably way beyond. So we're talking about an infiltration system here, which is done on the back of people calling themselves. So people have to be very aware of this, that we're talking about, say, people like Sabbatai Zvi. He had millions of followers and people follow. So in other words, it's a messianic cult, but the messiahs so far have been self-proclaimed and very bad news indeed. So is this a good governing system? Doesn't seem to be, seems to be very self-destructive in that it doesn't know when to stop. And there are reasons for that, because the idea is that the priesthood, the people even behind the Pharisees, knew how to biologically control the people in that cult. And to me, that's much more interesting than talking about this fake religious aspect of it.
Yeah, that is you just dropped
interesting, isn't it?
Knowledge right there, dude. You just dropped some knowledge, man. So can we get into a little bit of black magic temples versus the mysterious force and what your thoughts?
Why not?
Yeah, let's. Is it too much? I don't know. This has been fire.
Well, the thing is, as we said, I was going to call you Johnny again.
That's
the two Johnnies.
Sam. It's fine. I'm fine with Johnny.
I think the thing is that it appeals to people who want knowledge, who can look things up. Because I do like to have a bit of a laugh, but I also love putting information out and receiving information. So yeah, I'd love to talk about that.
So I would love to hear your thoughts on it, because I think everything is black magic right now, and I
agree with that.
Our guests tried to bring up before, but a lot of our next tech weaponry to me is just hardwired mysticism. They've just figured out to hardwire it, like in the Marvel comics, Doctor Strange. They're able to manipulate energy and your thoughts and get into your head and get you to do, through MK Ultras and lasers and weather machines, and whether they have the ability to time travel and stuff like that, cloaking, all that stuff seems to me to be old school magic, dark magic tricks. And they've over centuries fine tuned it. So the whole point about a magic trick is like, can you do it over and over again, right? Like when that hypnotist goes on, he guesses people's number. All he has to do is be wrong once, and he's done. Yep. Right? So, like, that's the key. Like, Johnny, okay, you're psychic, Sam. Yeah. Tell me this, tell me that. Well, if I can't do it, Johnny's like, then you're not psychic.
On camera, anyway.
But if I can do it constantly all the time, Johnny may give me an inch and be maybe you're psychic, right? Yeah. A tiny inch. But these people have been working in this black ops, dark occult world, and they've been just funneling all this fractional reserve banking money into it to fund the ability to be able to do mysticism over and over again at any moment they hit a button. So what are your thoughts on the black magic temple versus the mysterious force?
Well, the black magic temple would be the black priesthood. When we look at people who work within the church, they wear black robes. The reason they wear black robes is because they are not spiritually advanced. They are for the day-to-day duties, and they are the doorman of the priest class. The priest class would only ever wear white, and that goes back to the Druids, you see. So the white is the purification. If they're wearing black, then it goes into this idea that they're either gatekeepers or they're there for no good. And the mysterious force is this story that Freemasonry was put together in 43 AD to destroy the early Christians because they had what is described as a mysterious force. So Freemasonry was set up with someone called Hiram Abiud. And the whole idea was that it would be a counter-attack on Christianity, which of course it is. That's what Freemasonry is. And they say that they are multi-denominational. I know that isn't true. And the whole point is that it goes down to spiritual power. The current elite, in my view, have no spiritual power. They are materialistic atheists and plunderers. Therefore, they are weak. Therefore, they can be defeated easily. Now, not easily in the respect that they can be conquered by land armies because they're controlling everything, but conquered on a high spiritual level. And that, I think, is the key to what that was about. It's about this idea that the current so-called elite are not elite at all. They are basically plunderers, and their system can never work. And it hasn't worked, and it will never work, because it's based on principles which go against the natural order.
Yes, dude. Yes.
Does that make sense?
100%. I've said this before.
I'm trying to keep it very concise, obviously.
I've said like the universal rule of the universe is love and helping others. And I don't care if you're Klaus Schwab or whatever his name, that Larry Fink that runs BlackRock that now runs the WEF. You're not bigger than the laws of the universe. And if you're not helping others and being in love, acting in love, you're going to fall, dude. It's just energy. Everything is energy. What is the energy putting out versus what?
And I think this brings up a really good point as to what are they really trying to achieve, because it all came out of the idea of depopulation and control and management of the population. But what is the real purpose of that? Because populations have never been truly managed. There is always this natural tendency to what they call chaos, which you could interpret it as chaos, but it probably isn't. It's the natural order that will find a pressure valve and get out. So they are trying to close all the pressure valves with fake protests, with infiltration of everything and gaslighting of everybody. But what's the purpose? Because they're just going to die. What is the point? There is no progress in this idea of civilization. So my idea was to start a new civilization of people who could be on a higher level of thought and actually start doing useful things and stop focusing on the nonsense that these people are doing. Because I tried to stop it years ago with the system global to local, and I didn't get any support at all. But I did have a lot of actual success in things I did. And I think that this is the key to it all. It's understanding this, that this idea of black magic is it's something that I think people just throw around. There are demonic realms. There are people involved in low magic. And that has an effect to a certain level. I've been attacked by low magic on many occasions, but it doesn't work. It only works if you are vulnerable to it. And of course, as we said earlier, if you have a problem, they will get in. It comes in through sexual abuse, through drugs and alcohol. And these are the three main gateways. But if you have built up your own awareness and educated yourself correctly, and you adhere to good principles, and it doesn't mean being a do-gooder or anything. It's a kind of living in providence, living in God's providence, and they're going against that, you see. So then people say, oh, they're satanic and all this. Well, I think that when it comes down to it, it's just a system that is not going to work. And our job is to make sure it doesn't work and create new societies outside of the garbage. But most people are very willing to waste all their time and energy on issues of no importance, arguing over the trivialities, the two lies that are put before them. And once you get beyond that, I find it very, very liberating and fascinating, the whole thing. I've never felt better in my entire life personally.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. So as we wrap this up, my question to you is, you've dropped some real pearls on us. It's been excellent.
I've enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on.
So you can come on anytime you want. It's open door. So as we put this out, this will go out on what will go out Thursday? Yeah, Thursday, Friday, right? And
Probably Friday.
People are going to listen to Fridays. This will come out on Friday. People will listen to this, and when they listen to this, what can they do? What can we tell them to do that will help them break out of this and not be a victim to this social engineering that is constantly bombarding them every moment of their day?
Concentrate on what's important, live in God's providence, and don't follow the two lies.
I would agree with that. I would agree with
There's obviously more, but you wanted me to wrap up. There's a soundbite for you.
No, dude. I mean, if you can go into that a little bit, because I would love, and then I'm not looking to end the show. I just want to be like, this is kind of how we'll leave it. But can you get into that a little bit? Is that possible?
Yes, I did a show called What is Divine Providence? And the idea is that if you do things in the right way, at the right time, and that means at the right moment, then something opens up. And if you do things for exactly the right reason, and this is going beyond just trying to say, oh, I'm going to help everybody. It's a kind of thread. It's very, very easy to break, that I think is incredibly important, because if you strip away all the distractions and are truly honest with yourself, and you work on your own awareness, and by that I don't mean going into group meditation and stuff like that, there are states of mind where you can be open, aware, and they are like meditational states. And from there, everything else is formed. It's like the unified field. And people can get lost on that when they talk to gurus, but it's a very important place to start. And then a lot of the distractions seem to fall away. And what I found was that the issues of no importance then were of no importance. Because what I see is people I knew from 30 years ago, they have not moved on. They are in arrested development. And that's a choice. That's a choice that everybody has to make. We're all naturally lazy, and the system feeds the laziness, because lazy people are incredibly easy to control. So if we get away from that and stop getting addicted to the two lies, for and against, Republican versus Democrat, materialism versus organized religion, all these stupid false arguments and arguing against them, they are there to waste your time. The way people are governed and the way we are governed is very simple, but it has to start with governing of ourselves. And then our actions become more refined, more useful, and above all, more effective. And that, I think, is what these ancient civilizations had. It appears that the ancient Druidic priest class were very advanced thinkers and that they had telepathy. Now, telepathy is not something that is abnormal. I think telepathy is something that is quite normal because we all actually experience it at some time or the other. But because of all the impositions and the nonsense and the education that we've had, which tells us, oh, that could be this, it could be that, it's nothing, then we go out of focus with ourselves. And when you go out of focus with ourselves, you get what's happening in Israel. You get a genocide, because that means people are obsessed and easily controlled, and they have a belief system which is false. So in other words, what's the outcome of that? Nothing good will ever come out of that. And it's beyond a kind of peace and love thing. You know, the thing is that they're attracted to very simplistic things. And that's everybody. We all are. But I think that if you work on principles which take you to somewhere higher, be in the world and not of it, and that doesn't mean going and living in a monastery. It means carrying this everywhere you go so that you develop a very incisive view and are able to decode more clearly what's going on around you. Because this biorobotization has taken over most people. Most people are biorobots because they cannot focus on something of importance for very long at all. And they cannot take in the significance of things that are really important over trivia. And that's where I think the training comes in. And I think that's where the challenge is. And I think that's what makes life actually really worthwhile. I call it the lifelong learning project.
I found that great. This is great. Great episode, man. Absolutely amazing, Mark. Mark, one more time, tell them where they can find you.
WindowsOnTheWorld.net. I'm doing a live stream tomorrow on my YouTube channel, Windows on the World. On the website, you will find information going back to about 2014 when that website was set up. So, yes, that's where to find me. Thanks for having me on, Sam and Johnny. And I really enjoyed it. Thanks for listening, and I hope the viewers get something out of it.
They're gonna love it. Just I just gotta ask you a couple questions off here, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and let's break down the episode. All right, guys, what'd you think about Mark Windows?
Great guy. Came in hot.
I mean, dude, one of the best episodes we've ever done. I mean, are Johnny, as a Christian, are you open-minded that Britain is the real birth of Christianity? Are you open-minded to that?
Sure, I don't think it's relevant at all. I mean, I don't think it impacts the stories in the Bible could have happened on Pluto. I don't care.
Do you think it possibly happened on Pluto?
It could be.
Could it be
It's
that far?
possible.
And that's why they're trying to make us not look at it.
It's funny. I've heard that idea before, that the lost years, like, of Jesus, possibly he came over on those trade routes, but I hadn't heard that like all the shit in the Bible happened in England, which is fascinating. That's
I mean, it makes sense if they want to shish kebab us. I mean, like again, the state of Israel is not the Israel of the Bible. Johnny, do you have a problem with that?
No, of course not. It's not. I mean,
yeah, and it's like,
I mean, there were kingdoms of Israel in the Bible. It wasn't like
Israel is basically those who follow the teachings of Jesus.
That's what he said. Yeah, sure.
And it's not a place.
I mean, and then you have a people that are, that were homeless. Yeah,
those lost years. Do you think the Vatican? Those lost years. Do you think the Vatican has proof of it? If there is lost years of Jesus, do you think the Vatican has anything?
Yeah, they have everything.
Because, I mean, how are they lost? How are they lost? To me, in my eyes, it's like, how doesn't anyone would have kept...
Well, he wasn't going around preaching, I guess, so... And back then, if you're not famous...
they're not called...
But they would have asked him before he died, hey, Jesus, what were you doing?
It's not a blog, dude. It's literally years that nobody actually knows what he did. That's why they're called the lost years. It's not lost like blog updates.
No,
or
but I'm pretty
Dear
sure.
Diary.
No, I know that, but I'm saying they would have asked them like right before when hey Jesus, what were you doing and when you were 13? And someone must know, and someone must have written it down. I don't know. I'm just saying it's crazy how and I'm not saying that we have. I'm just saying does the Vatican have them? If there is any proof of it, do you think the Vatican's they're holding it back?
I wouldn't doubt it. It's very hard. Obviously, with Judaism, it's everyone's super sensitive, but like Catholics are interesting too, because all my Catholic friends, I love them very much, but the Vatican just more and more comes off as evil, more and more evil.
They're the Shohei Ohtani of hiding pedophiles for sure. Like,
Yeah. They're up there, dude. Israel's pretty bad too.
No, but they're the 5-tool player of hiding pedophiles. The Catholics, like they.
Yeah.
The Israel's kind of the under the radar star. You know what I mean? Like the guy that is actually almost as good as Shohei, but nobody talks about him because he's slick.
Like if it was the Anaheim Angels.
Yeah.
Like the Catholic Church or the Vatican.
They're the Angels.
Would be Shohei.
Yeah,
and then Mike
Shohei.
Trout would be Israel, where it's like he's great, but he's not as good.
It's two Shoheis. They're both Shohei, but he's Shohei with the Angels before he blew. Everybody gave a shit because now he's with
But to defend the Catholics, it's only the priest doing it. It's not.
Well, I mean, that could be applied to almost every religion. It's like
because
Muslims.
Israel is just random people. There's a lot of they'll defend anybody. In Mexico, if you're Catholic and you're not a priest, you don't get defended for touching a kid. You go straight to jail too. It's the priests who they defend.
It's very interesting. You're bringing up very interesting things. But real quick, go to samtripoli.com. Check out my dates. Skankfest, November 14th through the 16th. Listen, guys. Grab your tickets to Vegas. It's going to be fire. Ooh. Las Vegas, Virgin Hotel. We sold a bunch of tickets. We have a lot more to go. We'd love to have at least 200 people there for a big party. We're going to be there Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. If you want to come and hang out. Now, here's the thing. The F1's going to be there. The beautiful part of this is the end of the race is right at the hotel. How cool is that? You're going to watch a newly single over here slinging it at F1 ass. You're gonna be
so stupid. I should have booked. It was $140 a night 2 weeks ago, and now it's like $211. I'm so stupid.
Johnny, just get it. Just get it. We'll make it work.
Should have booked then.
No, I'm with Johnny. It's the worst. It's not about paying. It's just the worst when you saw it at that price, and for some reason you
now
didn't
I feel like
pull
I'm
the
losing
trigger.
like money. Yeah.
Do it. Just do it. Grab your tickets now.
Yeah, see,
3 nights.
Do it just like Johnny. Just do it. Just do it. Buy the ticket.
Do it. Grab a ticket.
Yeah, it'll go up. Do it now or it'll go up. Yeah.
Buy it now. Get in. Come watch us drop Hammers of the Gods. Woo. We're talking Hammers of the Gods. Minneapolis. I'm going to be at the House of Comedy December 11th through the 13th. And then New Year's Eve, we're closing out at the Dojo of Comedy.
Comedy Chaos, and then your big event that you got coming up.
Comedy Chaos is November 11th. Woo. And the lineup is Ari Murder. And then I know we're about to announce it. It's this close to being announced, but my big thing is going to be January 10th at Atlantic City, and it's going to be historic, and it should be paradigm shifting. So I hope you guys have a chance, especially if you're on the East Coast. It's in Atlantic City. Johnny was worried that you'd just be driving all up and down the East Coast.
You were promoting it for a while, saying, "Yeah, on the East Coast on January 10th, come to our big event."
Premium content's on fire. 3 of those a week. Going to do some more this week, and then going to do. Then we got Cash Daddy.
I finally
stuff.
saw this Cocoa Puffs conspiracy.
It's
Holy
crazy.
Shit. Yeah, this guy's got time, but he's on to something.
Dude, but how great is that video?
It's great. It's a great video.
It's
like
probably,
amazing.
Can you give me
this guy breaks down basically from the first commercial Cocoa Puff ever did to the end of their commercials is a storyline that basically is that human. It's this about humans and it's like DARPA.
They don't have Cocoa Puffs anymore.
They do have Cocoa Puffs. I don't know if they use I don't know if they advertise anymore or use the bird, but it's literally a storyline of just the most amazing. Like he connects dots, and you're like, holy shit!
I love that kind of thing.
No, this guy's that guy's Alex Bell. If you ever want to follow great YouTube channel, Alex Bell is the shit, dude.
Nice.
Dude, he's great. Tell us about Cash Daddy's Patreon.
Yeah, how he's killing it. How he just had hip surgery, so he's going to be out for a couple of days.
You showed him how to log in, right?
Yeah, he was having trouble with getting into the app the other day, but he's posting videos daily on there. In and out of trades. Oh, there he is. He's already back. The man is back after the day he had surgery, and he's already, look at that crazy.
Oh, this is in. Oh, dude, he is committed to the stocks.
He's banking while he's in the bed at the hospital. So I got the information for his horse on Sunday. We're going to go down there. And
He's
watch
good
him
though,
at
right?
Del Mar.
Healthy? Everything went good?
Appears so. I mean,
He's got a walker. He's probably pooping himself.
He's good though.
It's great. So go check that out. I'm not going to keep it long. Go down. We got new the Chaos Twins. We got new T-shirts coming out. Check them out. Psyop season.
Where is it?
Wood Army, dude. The Wood Army's been in work, dude. Wood Army, dude. So it's a great way to support the show. Buy gold and silver. Our good friends at Chemical Free Body. Buy gold and silver at Wise Wolf. Go to samtripoli.gold. Chemical Free Body is my favorite supplements. I take them every day. I'll take them after this. Love them to pieces. Don't know how my day will go. And then finally, we'll do Mineral King. Check them out. Oh, Mineral King with Pat Meltich. Get rid of those parasites. He's helping you do it. Great way to check out. And then finally, if you like the questions this guy's asking, and most don't, but if you do, okay? If you do, go to Brain Supreme, dude. This guy's been crushing it. He's been is this week on?
This week off.
Oh, you're doing this El Natural
this is
today?
El Natural. This is sober. Cali sober right here.
Cali
dude.
sober right over here, dude. Go check out Brain Supreme for your microdosing needs. And then, everything's on samtripoli.com. Anything.
Go check out my podcast, Actually Marks the Spot. Really good, really funny. We just did really good numbers, so go check it out, please.
Broken Sim. It's a podcast that exists out there.
And it's doing great, right?
Yeah, we're killing it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
we're going to get that thing to 100,000.
We got to get back on. We got to record
We're going to do one tomorrow.
Yeah, well, not as you're listening to this. We are recording yesterday. But, it will be out there by the time you listen to this.
All right, guys. Finally, it's so funny, Johnny, because you think I'm an idiot. Right? You go, oh, you can't read. You're not smart. You say that all the time.
This is all projection by
I know you.
Yeah,
I know what you think.
You're
illiterate. You spell horribly. You have to ask guests for how to spell things they said. You're dumb. Right? I get
that was a hard-ass word. There's no way I would have got it.
He needed to look it up. Do you see that? So anyways.
What, communitarianism?
Yeah. Look at just the way he said it,
I'm a good speller. That's always been my thing.
You're an elitist. That's what you are. And you look down you look down on me and even more down on him.
I don't project.
And I don't appreciate that.
I didn't even graduate.
Spelling is not any.
This guy got a high school degree from Mexico, which is that's third grade in America. Yeah. Anyways, you heard a lot of things he said doing deep research that we've been talking about on the show for a long time. So I feel like we're really on it and we're doing really well. And again, this show is not about how do we change the world. This show is about how do you change your life and become educated so you don't fall for their psyops. That's what this show is about. It's never about leading a movement to change everything. That's never gonna work.
Yeah, dog.
It's all about
You're totally right.
Right? It's just like if you listen to us and you realize, oh, this is their plan, you work on yourself.
Locally too.
Work locally. Act globally. Work locally. That is the key. And again,
think globally, act locally.
All right, guys. So enjoy these highlights.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim. Nick Fuentes went on Tucker Carlson. And
I heard that.
It really has softened his messaging, I guess is how you'd say it. Here is where Tucker tells him to his face that he thought he was a Fed. We'll just play a little of this. It's pretty, to me, interesting.
I love that they both think the other guy's a Fed.
Yeah, no, you're totally right.
They're like, that's like the Spider-Man meme where they're just pointing to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. It is.
But my Christian faith tells me that there's no such thing as blood guilt. And virtue or sin is not inherited. It's not a feature of DNA. So every person must be assessed individually as God assesses each person individually.
Now, the context here is he's talking to Nick about his opinion on the Jays. and how he seems to ascribe some kind of guilt to the whole people, where it should really be ascribed to, the people who run the Israel.
I love it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
That's
I want
like
to
a
hear about it.
foundational view. So I always thought it's great to criticize and it's question like our relationship with Israel because it's insane and it hurts us. We get nothing out of it. I completely agree with you there.
Parasite.
But the second you're like, well, actually, first of all, it's against my Christian faith. Like, I just don't believe that and I never will, period. And second, then it becomes a way to discredit. That's when I was like, this guy's a Fed.
Mm-hmm.
I was totally convinced you were a Fed because I was like, here he's bear hugging like the one sincere guy who lost his wife in Syria thanks to these crazy wars, neocon wars. And he's discredited. He's doing the David Duke. Like David Duke would always, every time I rolled out a new show, he would issue an endorsement of the show. I've never met the guy. What's that? Well, it's the Feds. Obviously, he's trying to destroy me by his.
Oh, he said David Duke's a Fed?
Yeah, but so
Yeah.
let
Yeah,
me
dude.
ask you this. So if I'm supporting Joe Kent, I'm David Duke bear hugging. If I attack Joe Kent, I'm attacking the only sincere America First
Look,
voices.
I get it. I mean, I do get it. And I just want to say I love Joe Kent. I get it. Having been denounced by a lot of people I like.
Including Nick
I know
Fuentes.
what
I
that
mean, like,
feels
this
like.
is
Yeah.
like, oh, you thought
So,
I was a Fed? I thought you
definitely
were a Fed
sympathetic
because you
to
said
that.
your dad was CIA.
I was denounced
they
by
get
someone
into
like
that?
last night.
Yes.
It hurt my
Yeah.
feelings. You know what I mean?
Oh, my feelings
Whatever.
hurt. I
I'm
get
gonna
it,
say what her
dude.
name is,
My
but I
feelings
helped
get
her.
hurt
I
too.
liked her. You know, it's like, why are you denouncing me? Why didn't you call me?
Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah.
get that. I guess the two problems, but then on the other hand, like one of my favorite people in the world is Glenn Greenwald.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love Glenn.
Oh, what a good man. Glenn must have spent like 10 years attacking me full time. Tucker Carlson is da-da-da-da-da. And some of his criticism was correct, actually. You know, a tool of the neocons, endorsing these. Like, he was right. But he really hated me. And then when we started to agree on stuff, I was like, you know what? It's not about me. I don't care. Like, I don't want personal pique or my hurt feelings to govern my behavior. I guess that's what I'm saying. I'm not lecturing you. I get it. But I feel like, okay, he pissed you off. It's in a campaign. He's got 19 consultants. This kid's a Nazi. Be careful of him. Like, I don't know. Let it go.
Well,
Nazis
and
are just
I totally
thrown
agree with you,
everywhere.
by the way. And and that's why I don't take it personally at all. Like, and I like you. I've said very positive things about you on my show as well. I think
Stop.
And
Stop. This is where Nick Fuentes gets in trouble. And I love Nick Fuentes. Okay. I would say, what's your biggest criticism, Nick Fuentes? And who am I? Nobody follows me. Is that when he gets into rooms with people, he has completely different energy than when he's alone on a show. Now, I get that because you just want to play, you kind of just want to get along with people. But for Nick Fuentes, I say good things about you. I'm not saying you don't say any good things about him, but you've definitely hammered him to the point he had to basically acknowledge that he said his dad was a CIA agent. Now, we haven't watched the rest of the clip. I didn't want to watch most of the show until we did this show so I could have an honest reaction to it. That's Nick's biggest problem. And maybe it comes with time. And it's like, that's not really the worst thing to have, is that you kind of are cordial when you meet people.
It's tough, right? Because you do want to be cordial, but you also want to, have some core values that you stick to, even when you're in a difficult spot.
You have always thought that Tucker Carlson is CIA, and there's great argument for that. There's an argument for that.
Nick Fuentes has,
yeah. So they both accused the other of being a Fed. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Right?
I'll
It's
just watch a
just
bit more
the
of
way
it.
it is.
I know, but I mean to say that my goal is America first.
Right.
It's not about me. It's not about my personality. It's about winning for America, and by winning, I mean, we want to see our vision realized. But with Joe, for me, it was very specific that he said inclusive populism. And I really didn't like that, because to me, there were a lot of similar phrases at this time: multiracial, working class, populism, this kind of stuff. And I said, on some level, we do need to be exclusive, not inclusive. We do need to be right-wing. We do need to be Christian. We do, on some level, need to be pro-white, not to the exclusion of everybody else, but recognizing that white people have a special heritage here as Americans. And so the reason I opposed him in 22 was not because I was mad, but it was to say America First cannot backslide into this kind of inclusive populism message, which I perceive to be more like GOP slop. And I'll tell you, when he ran again in 24, I did not oppose him. I did not oppose him. And I would have supported him if he had reached out or something like that. Because for me, it was very political and professional. I wanted to impose a cost. If you disavow someone because they criticize Israel, if you disavow someone for talking about white people and Christianity, I said, we can't let that slide because, and you understand why he did it. Like on some level, I don't hold it against him in the sense that there is such a strong incentive. It's easy to say, I disavow all these crazy.
That's what I most wanted to ask you about, this idea that he felt that he needed to punish people, essentially, to like he said, impose a cost. He put it probably the best way to put it, for doing those things. You know what I mean? Because otherwise they would go without penalty, without any kind of.
So he's saying he likes to punish people that he feels is pushing a false narrative, or
yeah, essentially, yeah. I mean, or criticizing other people for attacking Israel. I mean, like, or attacking what Israel's done. What do you think about it? Almost like it's kind of a vigilante mindset, and I know that appeals to you. What do you think?
I think that's kind of his game.
Yeah.
Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. That's individual, but that's kind of what he does. And there is something about.
If you'd like to hear the rest of this episode, subscribe to Broken Simulation in your podcasting app, or check us out at youtube.com/Sam Tripoli.
We got a funny ass, crazy episode here for you guys. Watch a fight where the fight isn't the main attraction. It's some girls. They're huge. And since we already went down that rabbit hole, for some reason, this video right here is his mother teaching her daughter how to swallow. Chili's already laughing, guys. It's going to be a good one. And I go deep, deep, deep on fat hating on this episode. For some reason, obesity's in, so I had to go and I had to hit him with it. So don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and let's get right into it, baby. Let's go. Welcome back to the #1 podcast in the world. It's your boy XG Marks the Spot. Let me get a burp. Hit it, Chili. Hit it one more time. You guys see, guys, we got a soundboard now, guys. And like always, I got my #1 producer / graphic designer / soundboard person, Chili Millie. Burp. What's up, guys? I just want to thank everybody who saw us at Escape. We had a great time. It was packed.
So packed.
Sold out. A lot of little thotties. A couple fights. Like, it was that sold out moment where sometimes I was like, this is why we get VIP sometimes.
Yeah, we needed VIP. We didn't do it.
Yeah, man. The moments where, like, you're there at the checkout, at the Insomniac checkout, and then you're like, should I not? And then you're like, it's not. My thing was like, in my head, I was like, I don't need it because I don't need the portable bathrooms because it's not as hot.
True. Yeah.
The shit
but it's just gonna be
saunas,
so packed.
Yeah,
and
but
nasty.
it was Halloween. People sneaking in and out. It was a good time. How many fights did you see? Did you count any? I saw 2 fights.
I never see any fights.
It was, but the reason I bring up fights is because I actually do. I know I sent you a bunch of doom scrolling videos of fights, and it was.
Is it like this? The one that you saw?
Okay, a little bit because there was boobs and nipples involved, but not like this. Like this video was wild. Like, yeah, I saw a couple, a nip slip between one of the girls trying to break up the fight with her and her boyfriend.
Everyone's already half naked.
Everyone's all half naked. That's my thing. Whenever I see a girl fight, I'm just like, if I was a girl, that would have been my biggest thing. I'm not even trying to punch you. I'm just trying to get you naked. Because now you want to cover yourself and, you can't punch me back.
That's hilarious.
You get what I mean?
They do not care. Have you seen like those fights where they're like naked and they're still throwing hands?
Yeah, her boyfriend's there trying to block her. Trying to like just going after it. No. Play that video because I'm telling you, these nipples are from a different universe.
Shorty, why your titties looking like that? The fuck?
fighting. They're like just like women, like old ladies. Do you know what I mean?
I don't really know ghetto cities like that. But if this gives me Chicago vibes.
Yeah,
like Chicago vibes. Because the guy recording is definitely a black guy. 100%.
I think so.
What is up with those nipples, Chili? Is she breastfeeting?
That's
like,
so
when
funny.
do they
what
get
would
like
make
that?
Them do that?
Huh?
What would make them do that?
You can't pierce that, huh?
No. No, of course you can. It'd probably
like
be easier. They're just right there.
I don't think there's a needle thick enough for that thing.
I don't know.
So funny because I sent this video to Chili, and it was more of the fighting video, but obviously there's a lot going on. But Chili thought it was very all about the boobs.
At the beginning when I first saw it, I thought it was just a fighting video, and then as I watched it and all the nipples, I was dying. It's
two nipples.
Very funny. But why are they like that? Like, what's going on? I want to know the backstory.
It sounded like
everything.
some I don't know.
Because you know what I mean? Like that guy was like trying to slice him.
Ice needs to show up.
For that.
Dude, yeah. What's going on, dude? They're throwing bikes.
That's funny. Yeah. You sent me this one too. I thought this one was funny just because we're on the ghetto subject.
I'll begin with light first, okay? Oh. Okay. I think a lot of you missed a lot of the stuff last year in second grade, so I'm going to let you see what first grade is doing as well. I think you missed a lot because school ended so fast. David Turner. David. Oh my God, who was that back there naked? Lord, turn your camera off, Tavion.
He still doesn't do it. Doesn't even move or react.
No. I think the mom was asking like, "Where's my bra?" or something, and the kid's pointing. So
no, he's not pointing.
Yeah, look at his hand.
Oh, that's pointing. I thought he was just chilling.
No, like replay it. It looks like he's pointing. Like his mom was like, "Hey, where's my t-shirt? Where's the bra?" And he goes like over there.
Okay.
You see, watch.
Okay.
He's kind of talking to her.
I think a lot of you missed a lot of the stuff last year in second grade.
So it's like he purposely put her on frame.
I think you missed a lot because school ended so fast. David Turner.
That's why.
David.
I thought he was just close to chilling like on the couch.
Lord, turn your camera off, Tavion.
That's so funny. I never even noticed that. I've seen this video
No. But wait up. You don't have. You can take the audio off. You see the other kid? The other kid is knocked the out.
No.
The one under the kid with the other one. That kid's passed out.
The second one.
Yeah, the second square.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's who she's talking to.
Oh. That's so funny.
I don't think she's talking to the kid that's pointing at that shows up. I think she's talking to David Turner.
That's hilarious.
The other kid's in bed. The other kid's literally in bed. Screaming sideways. Bro, those were the days, man. I wish I was a COVID baby.
No one's even reacting.
I wish I was a COVID baby.
One kid's not even on the frame.
What are you going to do? Bro, I wish I was a COVID baby.
I know, right?
Your laptop's right there. You can cheat. You have your iPad. You have your computer.
That's so
your sister's right next door to you. You're both in the same classroom. Not really. My internet don't work. The Wi-Fi don't work. I have... Dude, you know what? I was such a piece of shit kid. I'd probably go and like disconnect the Wi-Fi from the whole house. Like make sure it doesn't work just so I don't have to go to school.
What do you do if you can't afford like a computer to do?
That was a big problem during like COVID, dude. They were giving kids iPads and shit like that because
they were giving it to them?
Kids in the hood were falling behind.
Because they don't not have internet.
Remember the No Kid Left Behind?
Yeah.
That shit was so stupid.
You remember?
That was so stupid. No Kid Left Behind. So because he's an idiot, we all had to participate in idiot ass activities.
That's so funny.
No, fool, put him in the small school bus. Different, dude. You're here. You're in special ed.
Special ed.
See, she should be on a small school bus. That girl right there.
This one was funny. I like this one.
She could twerk. This girl can get it, bro. I wish we would have ran into her.
She actually is really good. Oh shit.
She's a little freak.
Wait, is it music? She's so cute. Look at it. It wouldn't Can they get BBLs? Do you think?
Yeah.
Because their bodies.
I'm pretty sure all procedures are pretty much the same.
I'm not gonna look it up, but
why not? Look it up.
If midget.
That's like you. That's like you asking, can they get eye surgery?
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
That is totally. How's that even the same thing?
Because they can definitely get a BBL. She might have had a BBL. That was a pretty good. That was a nice butt.
That's what I mean.
For a midget,
it was
that
like
was a nice
really
butt.
nice, but she looks like she works out.
No, but come on, but let's be for real though. Most midgets are pretty stacked like that.
Oh,
I've seen male midgets that look like they got a BBL.
Yeah, but she was like
just,
she had big
think
boobs.
they're just made
and
like that.
big...
Generally, people with dwarfism can undergo a BBL, but the procedure carries acquired risk and consideration because of certain anatomical differences. Well, there you go, people. If you have a midget friend, you can tell them they can get a BBL.
See, their skeletal structure.
Yeah, but it's possible. It's America.
Told you.
It's America, dude.
That's fine.
It's America. You want to talk about procedures? Go scroll all the way down. The one that you wanted to wait. This is a crazy ass procedure. Like you want to talk about surgical procedure?
Very scared.
Yeah, she got a facelift. That's a facelift what you're about to watch.
She got beat up. That's
people,
why.
it's insane. She's a bodybuilder.
Okay.
And this is day 3 or day 2, something like this.
Let me see. Is it?
So as you can see, today I did a thing. I had face.
Deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hat.